Please watch the program very carefully because your vote matters. So today, our expert panelist, we have Dr. Shubh Gautam, Chief Technical Architect from American Precourt, California. We have Mr. H.L. Lange, Joint Director, Department of Mines and Geology, Government of Jammu and Kashmir. We have Dr. H.S.M. Prakash, former DDG from Geological Survey of India. We have Dr. Abani Samal, founder and principal from Geo Global LLC. We have Mr. Ajay Sharma, Secretary General, Society of Manufacturer of Electric Vehicle. And I will just find out whether we have Mr. Prakash Kumar from CSIR because he was also been trying to connect. Meanwhile, to start with, I'd like to welcome our expert panelists. And first, I'd like to invite Dr. Shubh Gautam, Chief Technical Architect, American Precourt, to please open the panel discussion and set the theme of the event. Welcoming you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Metalogic, and lovely friends and panelists on this topic, which probably I put it as one of the most difficult tasks that has been assigned to humanity. Now, make no mistakes. How we approach lithium is not because lithium has become fashion over the years. What we are discussing is that lithium deposits open a great opportunity for India. And if played our cards well, it could be a great step and a source of strength in our contribution and our commitments towards net zero. My question is, had we found these deposits 20 years back, would we be as excited as we are? Of course, what about net neutrality that we signed in World Trade Organization. We have to achieve net zero by 2050. What that means is, as a country, as a citizen, as a responsible people of one of the greatest democracies in the world, we will have zero emissions by 2050. Now, emissions need not be because of only the automotive system or the ecosystem. Emissions happen because we need electricity to power our homes. We need electricity to power offices, shopping malls, hospitals. We need fossil fuels to run automotive ecosystems, which is basically our cars. So where are we? As we say, over the time, the technology cost curve does one thing, and that is they come down. And in the same manner, the performance cost curves over the period of time do one thing, they always go up. Now, let me share some data with you and why lithium becomes so attractive to us, but there are pros and cons on how we handle lithium. There are 1.40, and I'll confine my arguments to basically automotive system because as we look at it and given the time constants in this webinar, we can only address probably automotive systems and the requisite battery that we require to run them from an EV perspective. Today, we have 1.4 billion automotive systems on the roads, primarily cars. Let's leave aside trucks, heavy buildings. Let's leave aside locomotives, anything else. Of which, globally, the EV has 4% market share. In India, it is less than 1%. So the bigger challenge is from now until 2050, which is roughly 25 years, we have the greatest opportunity in human mankind to substitute 97% of these ICEs, internal combustion engines. And obviously, when we substitute internal combustion engines, we substitute them with an alternative technology. And this is where capitalism comes in. We're not investing in lithium, we're investing in a technology. Today, that technology is spearheaded by an element called lithium. Lithium has been there in the Earth's crust for millions of years. It was never of interest probably before 20 years. It is of interest because we are now looking at global warming. We are looking at climate change. And climate change and global warming have become a serious issue for everybody, every human mankind that has ever breathed on this planet. Capitalism breeds the necessity to own policy and institutions which allow free flow of capital into areas to acquire assets. And the jurisdictional principles of acquiring assets and protecting them is not defined by capitalism. This is why bodies like World Trade Organizations were not born 100 years ago. They were born barely 25 years ago. If I look at why lithium is such a great source of technologies, because most cars are today powered by lithium-ion batteries. Of course, I will not go into the details of the chemistry of why lithium is preferred because of electrochemical ionization potential design, so on and so forth. But then there are several lithium deposits that we know, and there'll be a lot of experts who will be talking on them. I mean, they are pegmatite deposits, the brine deposits, the sedimentary deposits, the geothermal brines, the mineral sands, and all of these deposits, depending on the geology and the mineralogy of the deposits, have pros and cons. Now, let me tell you something. Lithium today costs about $18.3 a kg. This is about an hour back. This is the cost of extracted mined lithium metal. A $18.3 kg metal converts into a cell, which is probably one cell which requires 10 grams of lithium. Now, for 100 kilowatt hour of a system, which is typically the Tesla S Plate, which is the top ranking model, which does about 600 kilometers to single charge, you need 100 kilowatt hours, which means 10,000 cells require 100 kgs of lithium. Do the maths yourself. The cost of producing lithium mined to 100 kilowatt hour system, you need 100 kgs of lithium. Lithium costs only $2,000, whereas that battery costs today upwards of $18,000. And when that battery goes into a car, that car costs upward of $90,000. Do you get the economics? So when we say we're going to mine lithium, make batteries out of it, and then put them in the cars, do not forget the cost economics. We are a country with a per capita income of less than $2,000. Is this affordable? And that's what I say. If we have to achieve net zero, and if these deposits have to make sense, that they need to be mined, and we have to be self-sufficient in terms of getting towards net zero as a country in one of the fastest developing economies on that planet, then we have to make it affordable. But of course, the performance cost curve will go up, the technical cost curve will come down. What about the cost innovative curve? Will we be able to mine this at affordable cost? I wish I had my hands on the lithium deposit that we've had recently discovered in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. First of all, my compliments to Government of India, Ministry of Mines in the state government of Jammu and Kashmir, and my all brothers and sisters back home, that this is a monumentous decision. The question is, what kind of deposits are these? I was in Santiago, Chile in 2017, and I was interested in looking at how do you mine lithium. Today, 40% of lithium that is used in automotive systems comes alone from one country, Chile. From there, it comes alone from one location, that is Salar de Cama mines in Chile. It's in the Atacama deserts. And when I was touring that facility, I was inundated. I was shocked. I mean, there were salt walls on the left of my walking, salt walls on the right of my walking. I was walking on salt walls. That was a brine extraction process. I'm told the brine extraction process is the most effective process for mining lithium today. Now, of course, lithium can be mined from hard rocks as well, but the question is cost. Even if we make lithium, even if we make batteries, even if we put in the cars, but if it can't be affordable, then what will happen is there will be a technology upgradation, because capital is coming in technology. Someone comes and says, well, I can make a battery with zinc. Zinc is much more easily available resource on the planet. What do we do then? So the question that we have these huge reserves is a great euphoria. The question is, how do we put to use, and where's the capital to move on? Let me tell you the largest lithium mining areas in the world today. I talked about the Salar de Cama in Chile. The second, the Greenbushes in Australia. The Greenbushes lithium mine is the largest hard rock lithium mine in the world. It's in Western Australia. But the question is, the cost competitiveness of extracting lithium and putting in a battery is inversely proportional to commerce, which is why it is not a source of lithium today. Then you have Argentina. Then you got Chunghao Lithium Salt Lake in China. And this is the salt lake which is producing most of the lithium that then goes into the supply chain for manufacturing the lithium ion batteries in China, which is why China is predominantly one of the strongest players in the world as far as lithium batteries are concerned. How are lithium batteries?
We lost you, Shubh Gautam sir.
Is it clear now?
Yes, and your mic was also having little noise, so एक बार आप
So I'll
देख
turn
लीजिए if
off
you
my
could just
video
adjust.
because, yeah, I'll turn off my video because it might be consuming a lot of bandwidth, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
We are able to
So
hear you
basically,
clearly
what
now.
is there? The first, I was coming at lithium ion battery manufacturing, the cell manufacturing. Basically, lithium ion cells are then grouped together to make a battery. A battery is what a battery pack is all about, right? You have an electrode. The first step is basically you have positive and negative electrodes, which are made up of thin layers of various materials, such as it could be lithium cobalt oxide, we call NCM, with lithium manganese oxide, and graphite. They are coated on thin aluminum and copper foils and dried, and then you can cut them to whatever size you want. Then comes a separator. The separator is a small thin film made of hydrocarbons, could be syndiotactic polypropylene or polyethylene, which is then wrapped around the cathode and is a barrier between the anode and the cathode. Now, make no mistakes, the current technology of making battery separators is a wet process. The wet process is extremely environmentally unsustainable because it generates tetrafluoroacid and very serious consequences on the environment. There is a dry process which is in place, but then we'll have to see the cost implications of a dry process. Once this happens, then the whole cell is assembled. The positive and negative electrodes are layered together with the separator in between, and they're rolled into a tight cylindrical space. Now, this is what we call a jerry roll. It is placed in a metal can which serves as the outer casing of the battery cell. So we have cylindrical cells and we've got prismatic cells, and they're used depending on what kind of output we need out of lithium cells. Finally, that metal can is then filled with electrolyte solution, which is a typical mixture of lithium salts and a lot of organic solvents. It's dried, it's baked, and then it is sealed. This is how basically a lithium ion battery is made. So we know what kind of lithium deposits are there. What is the cost implication of extracting lithium out of those deposits? The cost innovation is important to make it attractive and affordable to the general population, and how lithium-ion batteries are made. The question is, let me give you some more flesh on the bone. The manufacturing cost of lithium-ion batteries per ampere hour today varies between 10 cents to 30 cents per ampere hour, which means the manufacturing cost is about 150 to $180 per kilowatt ampere hours, assuming the average battery voltage of 3.6 volts. Now, we have different technologies from 3.2 volts to 3.7 volts, let's say 3.6 as an arbitrage. As an example, let me take Tesla. The specific lithium ion battery used by Tesla is known as a 2170 cell. Now, what's a 2170? It's a cylindrical cell that measures 21 millimeter in diameter and 70 millimeters in length. It was developed by Tesla in collaboration with their battery partner because one of the largest reserves of lithium ions and lithium metal was first discovered in Clayton Valley, Nevada. And Clayton Valley, Nevada had 1 million tons of lithium reserves. And this is where the first 1 gigawatt factory of Tesla was put up, which is why Tesla's car came into being such a great first mover advantage. These 2170 cells were subsequently converted into what we know as a 4680 cell. And they have been powering not only cars, they've been powering Cybertrucks, semi-vehicles, and so on and so forth. So a cylindrical Tesla battery, which uses 10 grams of lithium per cell, needs about 100 kilograms per car. Now understand, to mine 1 ton of lithium, you need 22 lakh liters of water. To ferry 22 lakh liters of water up and down from a mine, to extract, to comply, to clean, needs huge, humongous resources. It takes minimum 5 to 7 years to develop an infrastructure. It takes 4 to 5 years to settle an open cast mine, and it takes next 12 years to get a decent return on investment of the mining process. This should give us an idea of the capital that needs to be employed, and we have only 25 years to achieve net zero. The part of the problem is who goes to dance first? The policies are made by the political establishments globally. In Europe, mining is banned because they feel it's illegal. But then the same policy, someone would go, probably take a case of Finland. You don't have mining leases in Finland because they call it illegal. But then you would go to a shopping complex and buy a computer, which was made in China. How fair is that? The question is trade off. Today, we have lithium deposits. If we explore the lithium deposits, are we trying to sell this to a population who would agree to sacrifices and trade-offs? Now, trade-offs definitely does not mean that we will have any less happiness quotient or our children will be any less well in terms of lifestyle quotient. I mean, what happened before the pandemic? Every quarter, probably 10 people would fly from one end of the planet to another just to attend board meetings. Today, we do that over Zoom, over Microsoft Teams. Now, has this taken anything from us? So, I mean, except going and dining and whining, what else were you doing in a board meeting that you can't do virtually over Zoom? So it's a trade-off. Are we willing to have that trade-off? The mining, lithium mine has basically 6 processes. You explore, which has been done, which is where we are discussing. We've got deposits. We need to know the hard rock, brine deposits. What kind of deposits are they sands? Number 2, we drill for them, right? Once we drill, we get to extract the samples for them and analyze as to what should be the next chemical process to go forward. We extract them depending on the type of the process. We concentrate them, we purify them, we refine them, we convert into a log, which is a lithium log. Just by saying, I mean, it's a great opportunity. I'm giving you pros and cons. You decide for yourself. And then if you invest $50 billion down the line comes the technology and someone says, look, I got a sodium cell or I got a zinc cell, which is more predominantly available. Your cell is $15,000. My cell is $5,000. What happens to capitalism? It's a question of capitalism. And what's more worrisome for me is not lithium. Lithium is the battery that runs the car. But the whole electrical system of the car runs in copper. That's what the wiring harness does. And more problems are there in the copper mining today than in lithium mining. Copper mining is struggling. It's a loss-making proposition. What do we do and how do we go from there? So there are physical challenges, but then the question is the social, political, and financial challenges are bigger than the physical challenges. The physical challenge is the mining of lithium. But the social challenge is, for example, my niece, she says, oh, I don't want to buy a car. Welcome to the new thought process. In 20 years' time, you'll have self-driving cars, you'll have sharing cars. I don't know, where will we be? And suddenly you put all that money in lithium mining, you sunk $100 billion, and the people say, oh my God, our making automotive systems is loss-making because nobody wants to buy a car. You have an app and a self-driving car comes to your porch, you get into it, you go to a place, everything is regulated. You don't have traffic lights. This is going to be a reality. So how do you ensure that there is a participation from capital? There's a participation from the political will. There's a trade-off that we as human beings are willing to do to achieve net zero. And all of this today, as we invest in technology, it's a great opportunity, but we'll have to be careful. I will lead all of us to that and open the house for more question and answer later on. And love to hear some panelists and experts on where I'm leaving and taking it from here. Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you for hearing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the lovely insight and leaving the right. So we can take one more question, and then I would request Dr. Shubh Gautam to give last closing remark. So Mr. Sunil Bhatnagar is writing, now the revised standard for AIS 156 and AIS 038 has come in effect. So fire incident will reduce drastically. Okay. Mr. OP Sumani would like to ask a question. Yeah. So OP Sumani ji, you can write your question in the chat box, please. Meanwhile, Dr. Gautam, you're there?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
we are just taking this last question of Mr. OP Somani. Meanwhile, he's writing, and then I would request you to please do the closing remark. To Dr. Prakash, DDG, GSI, and NGCM is not providing any anomaly on lithium in India. Does it mean that lithium is not associated with rocks and soils? Have we explored in India and concluded just have we explored in India and concluded that lithium brine is not available in the country from which we may be able to extract lithium?
Well, it's a good question. It's a geology concerned with geology. See, we have to understand the geological setup of any terrain, Indian terrain or American terrain or Russian terrain or African terrain. There are different periods in which different rocks have come into existence time to time. And along with those new rocks, igneous especially, if not metamorphic and sedimentary, the material has come from beneath, from a depth of say 50 kilometers or 100 kilometers from beneath, from the magma, sorry, from the upper mantle. And when the rock material comes up, some ore forming minerals also come up, and they have been distributed in space and time. And in certain areas, we have certain commodities, and in certain areas, they are not there. So, this is the pigeonholing of each and every commodity. Here in India, we are seeing a mid-Archean and a late Archean terrain mainly, and here and there we find some Mesozoic and tertiary rocks. And we don't have many younger granites, tertiary granites, or highly evolved granites, highly differentiated granites, and that is how we are not having many mineral deposits like tin, tungsten, or tantalum, columbium, uranium, or lithium. Such metals are very rare. There is something called mineralization associated with acid magmatism. We call it MAVAM. This acid magmatism is very, very important for lithium and other rare earth elements. So that is how primarily we do not have many lithium deposits in our country. While minor occurrences are there here and there, as I mentioned. So while launching programs in future, we will have to think of this geological milieu in our country. That's what I meant. NGCM, yes, we have tested for 65 elements, including lithium, and we don't have any anomalous value which can be taken up for further exploration work. Exploration is carried out in 3 or 4 stages by pitting and trenching, by drilling, and later economic evaluation like that. G4 to G3 to G2 to G1 like that. So in many areas we have done G4 and G3 also, but G2 and G1 are not done for lithium anywhere in the country. And that is how the future appears to be very bleak for me as far as lithium is concerned.
Right, sir. OP Somani ji, you can unmute yourself and please be extremely quick. He's And I'm very
Yeah,
surprised that at the time of ending the program, I'm still getting so many requests where people are joining it. Yeah, Somani ji, very, very quick,
thank you, madam.
please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, my question is to the officer from Jammu. That actually, what made this? You call it a lithium deposit, in fact, because in India, lithium is an atomic mineral, and it's specified in Atomic Minerals Act that anything below 5,000 ppm of Li2O will not be economic, though it is a kind of threshold thing. And your values are only 300 to 400 ppm. So, what made you? I'm surprised. What made you to call it a lithium deposit? Because any deposit
Thank you,
has to be
Somani ji.
economically viable. Any deposit has to be economic.
Actually, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
In fact, it is lithium bearing mineral, but when we take scheduled mineral, it is non-metallic mineral. In fact, it's a metallic mineral, but lithium recovery, as Dr. Has told, Dr. Prakash has told that it is not there as mentioned in the report. It further depends upon the recovery part. I have already told.
All right, sir.
That is
Yeah, doctor.
metal. Otherwise, we will take it as a bauxite, as Dr. Chesapeake said.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Yeah, Dr. Gautam.
Thank you, Monica. It's been a great webinar. I mean, there were some awesome revelations as far as local topological and geographical insights that we got, both from a commercial standpoint of and from the standpoint of whether net zero is possible. So, I mean, Dr. Prakash did clarify that it is not 5.3 million tons. It actually is only 5,000 some odd kgs. And I don't understand if the deposit's only 5,000 kgs, why are we having a webinar on this? I mean, just doesn't make sense. To give you a brief idea, Chile has 7.5 million tons. Australia has 5 million tons. China has 7 million tons. I mean, the first Clayton, Nevada, which was confirmed by Dr. Samal, and I extend presentation on that, had 1 million tons back then when first gigawatt factory was established. So yes, the question was pretty much right, that we need to be very, very sensitive towards what we report and how we report. So I will not go into whether lithium exploration is the right way to go to India. If we don't have exploration, how? So the next question that comes in, and it was referred by Mr. Ajay Sharma also in his eloquent presentation, was why are we going towards electric vehicles? Is it a law? Of course not. But the question is, as lobbying is as old as human mankind, can we afford climate change? Yes or no, we don't know. But make no mistakes. You are the largest democracy and you've signed on net zero by 2050. So once you've signed, let's go beyond that. I completely agree. Volcanoes emit more CO2. CO2 is a beautiful gas. CO2 causes vasodilation, and that's how you get more oxygen in your brain. I'm not saying that NASA says this. So this rewiring society around sustainable fuels, is it a pipe dream? And if we can't achieve it, what next? And if we can achieve it, as I told you, there's more capital available today in technology towards climate change as was available 10 years back. And let me give you some numbers because I come from a background of data as an investment banker. Number one, 10 years back, there were 5 sovereign funds, hedge funds, and pension funds who would invest in new technology for climate change. Today, there are over 500 funds, and more funds are coming every month. The US Inflation Act alone, which would take care of consumer rights, is magnanimously $1 trillion fund. So is there a lack of capital? Of course not. Will electric vehicles be the answer? I don't know. Now let's take this 60 seconds towards the biggest enemy of electric vehicles from a sustainability point of view, which is hydrogen fuel cells. Now I drive a Toyota Mirai in California for the last 18 months. It gives me 502 kilometers on a single charge of hydrogen filling, which is 5 kgs. The hydrogen tank in Toyota Mirai is 5.5 kgs, and you can fill 5 kgs. You don't fill a tank and it's completely empty. Today, cost of hydrogen in California is $7.5. So I'm filling about $38, $40 of gas, and I'm getting 502 to 510 kilometers to the charge. That brings me to 6 in Indian rupees, 6 rupees per kilometer. If I take any standard car today with a 12 kilometer per liter average and gasoline at 110 rupees, today the hydrogen fuel cell is cheaper than gasoline. So will this transition happen just because there's climate change? Of course not. There will be personal aspirations. There will be moral aspirations. People will feel more responsible as global citizens and say, well, am I responsible for more carbon emissions? Good or bad is a debate we should have done when we didn't sign on net zero. We've signed it. We have to abide by it. If it doesn't happen, what happens? As I told you, the biggest economic change that happened in the last 25 years was we created independent organizations like World Trade Organizations. World Trade Organizations are not run by political families. They're not run by countries. They are run by capital because capital needed protection. Capital flows into jurisdictions. Capital creates assets. And if the assets are not protected, capital would not flow. And what if tomorrow World Trade Organization becomes a climate hawk or a climate watchdog and says, look, I'm sorry, this can't work. I agree. You might not agree with if CO2 is good, bad, harmful. You signed on the dotted line. So let's move on. Would hydrogen fuel cell be better than lithium ion batteries? Yes, maybe. What happens then? Then we're not talking about lithium. The question is climate change, global warming, sustainability. We have the best, youngest, and highest population in the country. Do we have the best engineers? Of course. We are the highest consumption population in the world. How do we protect ourselves? And this protection needs broader debate. I'll give you a small example as to how we'll have a proper. There's a company called eZinc. It was established in Toronto, Canada. They raised a lot of capital, and because of capitalism, I would know all this data. What they do is they have guaranteed that they can create battery storages, large battery storages for anybody, which can give you power for days. Zinc is much abundantly available, has been explored. We have supply chain stability in zinc. And if storage solutions go to zinc, where's lithium in the process? So the debate is not about lithium. Yes, we've seen the pros and cons of lithium batteries. Today, lithium is preferred. How do you know what the commercial model was? Maybe if there was no lithium in Clayton Valley, Nevada, there was no gigafactory for lithium, would Tesla go the lithium way? Of course not. They had a choice. They made a choice, lithium. Should we make the same choice as a country? I don't think so. We should make a choice that is good for us, that is good for us, for growth, that is more affordable. And if zinc storage system is the answer, we go zinc storage way. If hydrogen fuel is the answer, we go hydrogen fuel way. The question is, we can store hydrogen, which can create electricity. We cannot store electricity. And that's where the buffering mechanism comes. So winding it up, yes, there is a fear on possibility of whether we'll go for net zero, we will attain it or not. As a country, we need to be prepared. Is there capital available? Yes, private capital is available. Should this domain be out of the political discussions and policy, and should it be lent to people? For example, should there be a bigger social trade-off which the people are willing to take? Oh, we'll have lesser cars. We will use less electricity. We will not fly just for vacation. This has to be done if we are shrinking. It's not easy to replace 2 billion minus 3% ICE in the next 25, 30 years. So yes, thank you, Metalogic. Thank you, panelists. It was excellent looking at those numbers. And thank you, Dr. Prakash, Mr. Lange, Dr. Samal, Mr. Sharma, and Mr. Srinivas for all your views. And yes, inviting me, thank you so much. I come from a stupid chemist background, but then we understand, we invest, we want to keep our money safe. We know what's happening where. I cannot disclose many more proprietary issues that we are looking at, but do I feel it's a daunting task? Yes. Getting to net zero by 2050 is the most daunting task to humanity ever. Can we do it? They're optimists. Absolutely agree with them too. They're pessimists. I agree with them too. But that does not mean we should not try. And if tomorrow's technologies are cheaper than today's technology, I can tell you, climate change or no climate change, people will adopt them. So let's welcome new technologies, look at diversification, look at discussions, and let's go forward. Good luck to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shubh Gautam. And with this, viewers, we are closing the webinar. And thank you